Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to something a little bit different. Yes, today we are here with a bit of a moan to EA because there is one issue more than any other inside this game right now that desperately needs fixing, and that is the tyre wear management inside the game. Now, some of you guys have been commenting on it. I've been noticing it more and more in career mode. I was actually waiting for the version 1.07 patch to drop before I kind of made this video because I wanted to see if EA were going to address it or fix it, but they seem to be trying to sweep this under the rug, trying to make sure that nobody's really aware of just how big a problem this is. Now, before we go any further, if you're struggling with tyre wear management inside this game, what I'm going to say to you is change this one setting. And hopefully this video will go on to explain why, but I'm not going to kind of beat around the bush. It is the tyre temperature. You have to make sure your settings filter is set to expert, otherwise this setting just doesn't work, or just doesn't appear, which is really, really awkward in itself, the fact that such a big game-breaking problem is kind of hidden away inside the kind of the settings. But yeah, change this from surface and carcass down to surface only, and your tyre wear issues should be so much better inside this game. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to do a 25% race around Miami in intermediate conditions, because that should be theoretically the worst case scenario inside F125. I'm going to do one run on surface and carcass. I'm then going to do one run on surface only, and we're going to take a look at just how different the tyre wear figures are by the end of this race. Like I said, it seems like this is something that EA are just trying to hide at the moment, not trying to fix, not trying to talk about, because ultimately I think it's a lot of work for them to try and get this sorted. But these kind of bugs inside the game desperately need fixing. Career mode in F125, a lot of like the in-game mechanics are fantastic, but that is pointless when the career mode experience is completely broken because the AI can go further on tyres, manage their tyres better than you, and upgrade the cars a lot quicker. But apparently EA have now fixed that inside the game as well. Leave a like if this video helps you out. Please make sure you get yourself subscribed as well. Make sure you share this video as much as you can so that we can finally get EA to actually fix this, rather than trying to give us more sofas and random stuff on the the Bitcoin pass or whatever it's called inside the game. This is the stuff EA need to be fixing, rather than worrying about all of that. Anyway, we're going to do the first run then. We're going to run it on surface and carcass first of all. Then we'll run it... Actually, no, we'll go surface only first, because that'll mean I've got my eye in, ready to do the surface and carcass run. Now, for all of today's testing then, I'm going to be using my own custom-made wet weather setup for the Miami Grand Prix. Check it out over on Mat212 Racing. So this should be like a better case scenario for the surface and carcass temperature test that will be coming up, because ultimately I've set it up so, for league racing and things like that, you hopefully still stand a chance against your fellow competitors. The issue isn't that it's kind of different for everybody. In fact, if you're in leagues, I would highly recommend you still actually leave it on surface and carcass, because of course everybody's in the same boat, and it is actually, quite a skill to manage tyre temperature inside this game. The problem lies in career mode is because the AI, they don't have issues with it whatsoever. Now, obviously, I know we've spoken about it before. They've got traction control. They've got way too much straight line speed around a lot of venues as well. But especially kind of in these intermediate conditions, I'm finding that the AI are able to go way further in a race than I am ever able to on a set of the wet compounded tyre. Now, I'm running 91 difficulty for this video, basically just to hopefully mean that they're not going to be too much of a concern throughout both of these tests. We want them to be fairly competitive. We want them to kind of give us a, decent showing of pace, but nothing kind of too aggressive or in the way. But if you never use kind of just surface tyre, surface temperatures inside this game, you can see the top number across all four wheels is just locked at 65 degrees. It will permanently stay there. The surface temperature is the middle reading, and then the bottom one is the the middle reading is the carcass temperature, I should say. So that's kind of the one that causes all of the issues inside F125. As you can see, first lap, like a 140.4. Don't read too much into lap time, because of course I can't set identical laps each and every time as well. But let's head into the race then, and we'll see what it's like. Well, ready on the grid then here in Miami. 14 laps ahead of us. Let's see what the tyre wear is going to be like by the end of the stint. I'm not going to just obviously show you guys the full race. I will edit it down. I'm hoping there's going to be next to no actual racing going on, because obviously this is just purely for scientific purposes. I'm also not going to try and use any battery, just to eliminate any kind of anomalies with that as well then. But yeah, so basically, obviously, the way that just the surface wear works is, obviously, that can move around temperature-wise, but it does not affect the carcass temperature inside the game. So it basically just means, obviously, that, yeah, you still have to be a little bit careful. You can still, obviously, damage the the surface temperature of the tyre, but it won't affect things in the way that the kind of carcass will, because that is just locked at 65 degrees. That's what really drives the tyre wear. That's what gives you all the problems inside this game. Now, I don't know for sure if the AI just do not simulate tyre temperature whatsoever, or whether, obviously, because they've got traction control, it's just a whole lot easier. Maybe that's another experiment for another day, where I'll dive in and really kind of look into more of those aspects of the game as well. Like I said, this video was more about just raising awareness for you guys, because I was quite surprised as to how many of you have been having issues with this. And as I said, you know, as you get through career mode, this gets worse. If you're running in like Season 2 or Season 3, I would strongly suggest you avoid doing any of the tyre wear upgrades inside the game, because for whatever reason, despite the fact it's meant to make it better, it makes it worse. I don't quite get how that works, but apparently that's just what happens inside F125 then. As you can see, by the end of lap 1, we're at about 2% wear on the rears then, so nothing too crazy. I believed in 25% races, tyre wear is 4 times higher than what you get in 100% events. So it should kind of give us our most extreme reading after kind of 14 laps. Obviously, we shouldn't need to one-stop in this race. I would hope that we don't need to stop. My plan is obviously to do a no-stop strategy on both tyres, but we might not legitimately make it when we go to the carcass temperature test. Well, I'm going to try and do some comparisons at different points throughout the race. So far, then, we've got about a 5-second gap over Lando Norris. So I think if you were running like 100 AI, 105, you would be fairly competitive. It's a lot more manageable, because normally what you find is during wet races on this game, the AI, you have to turn them down by like 10 performance points. But you can see by the end of lap 4, then, rear tyres up to 8 and 9% respectively. Front tyres are going up about 1% a lap, rears about 2. So you would expect then in a 100% race, you could just about get these tyres to the end of a stint, you know, without pitting, which sometimes does happen in IRL Formula 1. Now, normally it's actually quicker to obviously pit and get fresh tyres on the wagon. But you can see as well then, obviously they're locked in at 65 degrees. Those surface temperatures are moving around a little bit, but staying pretty manageable at this stage of the GP. So let's see what they're doing by the end of lap 9. Everything's just very stable and predictable at the moment. It feels like nothing is slowly losing control. Well, as we come towards the end of lap 9 then, we're getting just over 2% tyre wear a lap. About 2.25% there or thereabouts each time round. The car feels good, pace is pretty consistent. We're running pretty much around the 1 minute 40 lap time each and every lap at the moment. As I said, the car feels pretty stable. It feels quite forgiving, quite gentle, and I'm not struggling too much with wheel spin on corner exits as well there. So all good signs at the moment. Now, as you can see, obviously the tyre wear is moving around, the tyre temperature even is moving around a little bit at the moment, especially obviously on those rears, but it's staying in a pretty tidy operating window. So, yeah, I think obviously without the carcass kind of getting warmer and warmer, it allows the surface of the tyre just to respond in a way it probably should inside this game. I think that's kind of like the big problem with the carcass, is obviously just how much it affects the surface temperature of the tyre as well. Ultimately, like, even if they just made it so that if there's like a direct correlation between the surface tyre temp and the carcass, that it was just a lot less strong, almost, is like the best way I can word it. I've made sure I haven't hit a single wall as well so far in this stint, so you guys should be quite proud of me for that. But yeah, I mean, the no-stop strategy, very easily doable here. So let's just see where the wear's at by the end. Well, as we get ready then to start the last lap of the Grand Prix here, lap times have got a little bit quicker, but there seems to be another issue inside this game where even in fixed conditions, the circuit grip slowly rises as the session goes on. But with that, so is the wear actually in the car. We're getting a little bit closer to 3% wear now towards the end of the stint, as we're up to, you can see, 37 and 33% respectively. So, yeah, it's not ridiculous. This honestly feels like, obviously I've never driven a Formula 1 car, but this feels far more like what I would expect managing intermediate tyres should be like in a Grand Prix. They don't kind of just skyrocket or anything like that. They do get slowly a little bit worse as obviously you take more tread off them. But of course, yeah, with that carcass temperature not absolutely boiling the surface, it's kind of manageable, it's fun, it feels balanced, and most importantly, especially in career mode, I've been pulling out about the same gap over Verstappen each and every lap as well. We've been consistently about a second and a half a lap faster throughout the entirety of this race. So obviously if I up the AI level, we can have a good battle with him. It would be far more balanced inside this game as well, and that's kind of all we're really asking for at the end of the day. I'm not worried about if I'm playing against 110 AI or 80 AI, as long as I can get a good race out of them, as long as they're like competitive and well balanced. I'm really happy running whatever AI level I need to run on this game to get good races. But the problem is at the moment is you're constantly having to change it between dry and wet conditions. That's the bigger issue inside F125. In towards the final few corners though, keep this memory in your head then. So 39%, 36% on the rears. We might just creep up over 40 as we get the power down at the final corner. There you go, 40% on that rear right tyre there. So a fairly easy no-stop strategy here in Miami. We'll take a quick look at the race time and then we'll head into the carcass and surface temperature test. Well, there we are then. As you can see, 23 minutes, 19 seconds there, and we were pretty much bang on a second and a lap faster than Max Verstappen. Sadly for us, Lando Norris had a mechanical failure, so we didn't really get a good reference time against our teammate there to kind of see what I could run the AI and have a good competitive fight. But yeah, Lewis and Lando both out of the race then, but 40% rear tyre wear, 23 minutes, 20 seconds. Let's take a guess. How different will it be when we enable surface and carcass? Well, here we are then, back again then. Exactly the same setup, exactly the same conditions, exactly the same car, driver, everything else. But all I've done is I've changed over, so we have got surface and carcass temperature then. Not the ideal line down in turn one there. But we'll wait and see as to how much the tyres move around over the rest of the lap then. Once again, I'm going to try and look after them, fairly sensibly. I'm going to drive as I would kind of in a normal career mode race. But what we might find rather rapidly is that I have to look after them a lot more. And obviously that then means you drive slower. But if anything, that then means on this game that the tyre wear is just as bad still. That's just how broken it is inside F125 there, as immediately by the end of Sector 1, you can already see those temperatures creeping up towards 70 degrees. I believe it's anywhere above about 85, I want to say, is when the tyre wear starts getting really, really bad. And of course, remember again, when you're going up against more competitive AI, you're having to push more because they are so good on the throttle. Because obviously they've got built-in traction control as well. It really is more like a series of kind of unbalanced things in this game kind of combined together, and that's what I think is ruining the experience for a lot of people as well at the end of the day. Then you can already see after just one lap, rear tyres have crept up at least 5-6 degrees here, and they are still continuing to climb as we make our way down towards that final turn. I mean, on the straights, that's where you'd expect the tyres to be cooling down the most over the course of a session, especially when it is still intermediate conditions. That's just not what happens, though, inside F125, as almost up 10 degrees in a single lap. That's where problems start to arise. Well, there we are then. As you can see, once again, just dipping under the 1 minute 40 barrier, 1.3 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc by the end of qualifying. Like I said, single lap pace, kind of ignore, especially in qualifying, it won't make much of a difference. But 23.19 is the time we're aiming to beat. Right, well, here we are then, ready on the grid once more. Hopefully we can control the pace back into T1. 5 red lights. There's the lights out, and away we go then. Again, we've got to try to avoid the wheel spin off the launch. Looks like Charles Leclerc hasn't done a particularly good job in towards that first corner. So hopefully we're going to be able to build up a little bit of an early lead there. Carlos Sainz in the Williams up into P3 then. But once again, I'll do a check-up at around kind of the end of lap 4, the end of lap 9, and then, of course, the end of the race. What I'm more interested in, I think the pace early on shouldn't be too different between, obviously, the two runs. Of course, technically this one has got a bit of an advantage because, obviously, I've got my eye in a little bit more there. But you can actually see through the early stages, the carcass temperature has actually gone down slightly on those front tyres. This is often what you struggle with, where the fronts just get cold, so you've got understeer on corner entry. The rears overheat, so you end up with oversteer on exit. It's kind of like driving the 2014 Ferrari car, if you guys remember that meme as well. But immediately then just starting to get a little bit more temperature in. And of course, it's always the carcass that goes first. And that's then what obviously brings the surface temperature up as well in the car. So just trying to keep it balanced, nice and tidy. Again, I'm not going to use ERS or anything like that throughout this stint. This is just purely about tyre wear. As we can see then by the end of lap 1, already up to 2% on that rear left tyre. Remember, we're trying to average less than 3% a lap, but the tyre wear will probably get worse as we go on, just like it did in the other car. So 2% by the end of lap 1 isn't too bad going, but already I would have thought we're probably closer to 3 than we are 2.0. But as we get to the end of lap 4 then, like I said, this setup is designed to hopefully look after the tyre temperatures a little bit better than kind of what default would inside F1 25, but already you can see creeping up towards 80 degrees at the moment then. We're getting still just over 2% tyre wear a lap, but I'm expecting the kind of gap to open up more and more as we get throughout this Grand Prix then. It's kind of the first few laps where it's manageable. It's just as it slowly creeps up, you've got no real way of kind of containing the issue. That's kind of the problem. It just obviously the temperature gets worse and worse. That makes the tyre wear worse and worse. It makes your pace slower, so then you have to try and push harder to beat the AI, because obviously, again, they're just ridiculous in the wet. So, like I said, it's just a vicious circle inside F1 25, and hopefully, obviously, as we make our way through this stint, you're just going to see how much worse it becomes. Well, as we can see then, by the time we move on to lap 9, that rear tyre temperature just now getting into the uncomfortable window. 94 degrees on that rear right, 92 on that rear left now. So this is where your problems really start to begin, because as I've said before, it's just a vicious circle of the temperatures keep creeping up. That then means that obviously you're getting more wheel spin because there's less grip in the tyre, and that then just means there's more temperature creeping up. I think, honestly, what they did, or what they didn't do, is this is a best case scenario for the intermediate tyre on this game. Obviously, it's a default car. I'm on a setup designed for wet weather and tyre management. So it's, you know, pretty much as good as it's going to get, and still, after 9 laps, those rear tyres are now starting to get a bit cooked there, and as you can see, just a little bit of a swap at that final corner as well. Tyre wear, 30% now. So we're getting over 3% a lap now already as well, and that's only going to get worse and worse towards the end of the stint. But yeah, like I said, I just don't think they tested it, like, beyond default cars, which, I've said it before, if EA, if they want me to kind of, you know, test the AI difficulty on certain circuits and things like that, and kind of career mode, as long as they give me some early access to make some videos and, you know, some special priority treatment when it comes to the games as well, sign me up. I'd be there in an instant. Well, about to start the last lap then of the Miami Grand Prix, and these tyres they've started to stable out at about 96 degrees around this circuit, so they are just getting absolutely cooked. I think the only thing stopping them from getting much warmer at this point is the fact that it is still raining around this circuit. Obviously, I've left it as fixed conditions throughout the entirety of this race, but you best believe if you're on a drying track as well, which of course then means you can't change tyres because the dries don't work. Yeah, you best believe things get even worse. Like I said, this is the best case scenario for these tyres. They will never be better than this in comparison to running surface only, for all the reasons I've listed. We haven't put as much time on Leclerc, but I don't think the race time is going to be too different. I feel like I've just been a little bit more consistent, despite the 3-second time penalty come the end of the afternoon. But you can just see how much we're struggling to try and get on the throttle. And obviously, you know, as I keep saying, it's just a vicious circle inside the game as well. Let's take a look at what the tyre wear is at. Obviously, it was 40% by the end of the race on just surface only. 55. We're running almost 30% higher tyre wear from changing one setting inside this game. I firmly believe the AI, to get a good comparison against the AI, you have to run surface only now. That's what I'm going to be doing in Season 3 of our career mode inside this game. And like I said, you know, this... A lot of you guys already know how big of a problem this is inside F1 25. It's just EA refused to acknowledge it or refused to fix it for some reason. I think, honestly, the biggest issue is the fact that the carcass warms up on the straights rather than cools down. I think if you could reverse that effect somehow, it would probably be much more manageable then. But through the final corner of the Miami Grand Prix, see, we're still struggling away. 56% going up against 39. That's just how big of a difference it is around this track. Let's go take a look at our total race time. I don't think there'll be much difference there. I think the only man happy about all this is Oscar Piastri because, well, he's got 2 wins today. Well, there we are then. If you minus out the 3-second time penalty, we were only about 4 seconds slower throughout this second race, but that includes the fact, A, I already had my eye in, and B, this, like I said, is the best case scenario for the intermediate tyre inside this game. Like I said, I just think EA need to kind of completely rework the way the carcass temperature works inside F1 25. It just hasn't been tested properly, and as I said, you know, especially in career mode, that issue accelerates rapidly. If you do that in like Season 3 of career mode with a lot of upgrades on the car, you are toast after about 7 or 8 laps inside this game. Thank you all so much for watching nonetheless. Like I said in the intro, make sure you raise this everywhere you possibly can, because it is desperately, desperately something that EA need to fix inside F1 25. Leave a like, get yourself subscribed. Tomorrow will be the finale of My Team Season 2 as well. A 3-way championship decider between Russell, Norris, and Charles Leclerc. You guys do not want to miss that. But yeah, that's going to do us for this one though, and we'll be back very soon, probably exposing more problems that EA need to sort in F1 25.